Welcome to Stories from the Park, a Heritage Park podcast. Hi, I'm Kesia Quill.
And I'm Dominic Terry. We're located on Treaty 7 land in Calgary, Alberta, a place where visitors come to learn about the history of all those who have gathered here and where Indigenous people proudly share cultural traditions and tell stories about their rich heritage, history, and attachment to the land.
In this episode, we'll be talking about the Blackfoot Prairie Chicken Dance, the story of how it came to be, why it's so important to the Blackfoot culture, and its emergence on the powwow scene.
We're speaking with Grant Manyheads, a senior interpreter at Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park, which is the historic site of the signing of Treaty 7. Grant, thanks for being here with us today to have a chat about the Prairie Chicken Dance. Before we start, an acknowledgement of you being here and being willing to share your knowledge with us, we'd like to gift you some tobacco.
Ooh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Traditional practice.
And thank you for having me.
We're very
I'll do my best to answer your questions.
excited
Best
to
of my
have you
ability.
here. Yeah, I think it's gonna
Right.
be great.
So, Grant, tell us who you are and kind of what you do in your day-to-day life.
Okay, well, my Christian name or government name, as I put it, would be Grant Manyheads. Manyheads, in my language, actually, we'd say Agotagani. And so the original Manyheads was one of the signers of Treaty Number 7. So after that, our family just kind of took his name, sort of in the Christian tradition sort of way. But my personal name is Enki. That's a name that's been in my family for generations, and that name actually means singer. So the way you would say it is Enki, meaning singer. So that's actually my occupation. That's what I do. I've been a singer for almost 40 years. I've learned not just the modern day powwow dances and the singing the songs, because every song has a story. There's a meaning to it. And so we have all sorts of songs, just like listening to your radio coming into the city.
Yeah.
You know, we have war songs, we have victory songs, scalp dance songs. But we also have songs that have nothing to do with those things like the owl dance song or the Prairie Chicken.
Yeah.
Now the Prairie Chicken songs are all part of the Prairie Chicken Dance, and that's one of the things that I was going to speak on today. The origin of that, we're proud as Blackfoot people to say that we believe that particular dance came from our people, culture. And literally that tradition is possibly thousands of years old, as far as we know.
Right.
The story's been lost in time, sort of thing. But I've traveled not just within Alberta, but literally throughout Canada, the United States, even been down to Mexico, and we've been able to share our culture with a lot of other tribes, a lot of other peoples, and then we also get to know our history by talking to other tribes. And so they tell us, oh, we know your people this way or that way.
Yeah, that's neat.
So it all kind of fits in like a big puzzle.
Cool.
And so in that sense, I've learned my culture.
Yeah.
I've learned our song, our traditions, our heritage, our history. All of these things kind of came with singing.
Yeah.
And then so that on top of my love for history. So I went to university and I studied anthropology, archaeology, all of those different types of disciplines. But like Tommy Boy in the movie, I've gone to school for 7 years and I haven't got a degree yet because I'm still kind of just learning for the sake of learning, right? And in my job at the Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park, there really is no degree out there to fit that position. It's all a matter of experience and then kind of knowing a little bit of everything there to be able to do the job that I do. And by the way, the job that I do at Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park is cultural programming.
Great.
So we bring programs to schools, to corporations, to groups, to teach them about our Blackfoot culture, history, heritage, language. And particularly here in Treaty 7 in Calgary, because this land to the Blackfoot people is part of what we call Pitawas, meaning our land. And so back in 1877, when we signed treaty with the Queen's representatives or the government of Canada, that allowed Canada to put in their CPR, and then John A. Macdonald's dream, the first Prime Minister of Canada, his dream of connecting Canada from sea to shining sea was realized.
Right.
Because if Treaty Number 7 wasn't signed, who knows how long
Yeah.
it would have taken before something like that happened. So, yeah, the settlement of the Canadian West, that happened because of Treaty Number 7.
Yeah.
And also, I just kind of like to point out that Treaty Number 7 was agreement between the Blackfoot-speaking peoples and the newcomers,
Yeah.
the government of Canada, the Queen's reps. And when they came out, we don't look at it as a land surrender so much as been published in a lot of literature.
Yeah.
We look at it as a land share,
Yes.
because that's how we dealt with every other government, tribe, whoever we made treaty with. To avoid bloodshed, to avoid violence, it's to share the land or come to an agreement.
Right.
And that was no different with the Queen's people.
Right.
So that's how we look at it today. You know, just kind of want to point that out since
Yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
on the subject.
No, it's good. Let's
Yeah.
bring it back around. So talk about your time as kind of a singer. Dancing is really an important part that goes along with the dance portion of it. Tell us, dances hold different significances to different tribes. Just, I guess, explain a couple of them and tell us kind of what they mean to you guys.
Okay, well, you know, all of the dances in what they call modern day powwow, all of them were traditional dances, but their origins came from different tribes. So it's what became popular is what people dance at the modern day powwow celebrations. So as an example, they have what they call men and women's fancy dance. Or some people call it women's fancy shawl, or men's fancy. Well, the thing is, both those dances, their origins are in Oklahoma. From those people after the Trail of Tears, when they had all those tribes that were conglomerated, basically forced into one area.
Right.
Well, they shared their culture with one another. And then some of the dances that became popular amongst them were these, what they call fancy dances. And so the thing is, because they weren't just one tribe, but a few tribes that got together to celebrate, it kind of expanded to other tribes in the States, where other tribes would go to those celebrations, they would see these dancers and they'd say, oh, I really like that style, I really like the way they're dressed, I want to dance that way. So they would watch, they would learn, and so it kind of became a pan-Indian or native indigenous dances. So those are popular dances, not just in Oklahoma, but throughout North America, through here in Canada.
Yeah.
You have dancers, like even on my reserve, my people, the Siksika, that was never one of our origin dances, but we have hundreds of dancers who love to dance that style because it's so athletic, you need to be in good shape, etc. Men or women, right?
Yeah.
So that's a dance that was traditional to those people, but became a modern day sort of like a popular dance for Native peoples everywhere. And so that being said, there's other dances like here in Canada that come from the tribes that are in the eastern parts, such as Ojibwa, or the Plains Soto, or Plains Ojibwa. They're known by both names, I guess, Soto or Ojibwa. But these natives, they brought two dances to the powwow world sort of thing, and that was the women's jingle dress dance, and then the men's grass dance. And so the grass dance story is, for them, those are traditional dances. Now the grass dance story is, the grass in those eastern parts are pretty high, maybe 3 foot high, 4 foot high. So if their leaders chose a certain spot to camp, and they thought it was a good area, well, if the grass was that high, they really can't put their homes there.
Yeah.
So they would send out all the young men, and basically they'd have a line, and who knows, maybe there'd be 20, maybe there'd be 100 of these young men. But they'd all be in a line, and then they would all go forward. They don't step back, they don't like retreat, they go forward. And so when they're going forward, they're like a huge long mower in a sense, because the grass that's in front of them, what they'll do with one leg to stomp that grass down and pat it down, or to even cover a gopher hole, whatever they do on the one side, they have to do on the other side. So if they're doing the one dance movement, whatever it is on this side, they have to do exact same on this side to do it. And when they're going back and forth, you have to imagine them stepping on this grass and trampling it down. And they're, like I said, there'd be like maybe a whole huge long line of them, and they would just basically flatten all the grass. Then they, maybe one of their elders, I've heard, would come and bless the area, and then they would set up their camps in that particular area. But that dance, like I said, was traditional to those people from eastern parts, like Ojibwa, the Soto people. But it became a popular dance, and then a lot of people in the powwow today, the modern day powwow dances, like to dance that style. The other style I mentioned was the women's jingle. Now that was kind of a modern day dance. It doesn't go back into like thousands of years, maybe only a few hundred years ago or so. But the story was that each jingle is almost like what the Christian or the Catholics particularly call a rosary or something.
Right.
Well, they have so many on them. And the story was that somebody was sick, and not being a Ojibwa, I can only just kind of relate the story I heard. I don't know their actual story.
Yeah.
But the story I heard was that there was a person who was sick, and that the woman, she went and made this jingle dress dance, and she danced for this person, and that person got well.
Yeah.
So it was like a healing dance amongst their people that became popular to a lot of other native tribes, particularly because of the jingle, the sound.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, they usually originally make them out of snuff can lids,
Yeah.
and then, but any kind of piece of steel or tin, they would wrap in a kind of a cone,
Right.
and then they would have it attached to the dress. But when they dance, it makes this kind of like a, and that's kind of part of the appeal of that dance to a lot of the young women, because you don't just can look beautiful, you could make your presence known by
Making noise.
making noise.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, those are dances that came from these different areas, and are what a part of what they call powwow today.
Okay.
But as Blackfoot, we only have two dances that are part of that powwow modern day world, and those two dances are our owl dance, which is a traditional dance that comes from the Blackfoot people. It was a courtship dance. In fact, at that dance, that was the only time that a man and a woman who were not married can touch each other. You could hold hands, and you could dance during the owl dance if you're not married. Otherwise, you're not allowed to touch one another if
Right.
you're not married. You could dance with a relation or something like that. That's not a problem, but they're very strict on that. So you could see how even literally hundreds of years ago, for all the young people, that would have been a big event. If somebody said, "Hey, they're going to have an owl dance tonight," and they'd all be like, "Oh, let's go to the owl dance," and it was always a woman's choice.
Cool.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah. And if you refuse the woman that asked you to dance, you have to give her something, give her a gift.
Okay.
So there was rules to those sort of things too.
Neat.
But the owl dance, that came from our people, from the Sixikates, the Beaks, our Blackfoot speaking peoples. That's one of our dances. And the other one is the Prairie Chicken Dance.
Great.
Part of the story, to the Blackfoot people, a lot of people think that Plains tribes are all the same.
No.
And the thing is, we're not. And the Blackfoot particularly, because I can only speak to
Of course.
our ways as Blackfoot people, but our ancestors, our mothers, our grandfathers, grandmothers, they had very strict taboos when it came to a lot of things, including our diet.
Right.
Now, to the Blackfoot people, we're a lot like the Mosaic Israelites in the Bible, in the Old Testament, when it came to our diet. Now, the thing is, the Blackfoot people, we only ever ate the four-leggeds that had a split hoof that chewed grass, that ate grass.
Okay.
Now, our mainstay was Ini, the buffalo, or the bison, as people know. That was what we relied on, our staff of life. So that was our daily food.
Right.
sort of like the daily bread.
Mm.
But we also ate animals such as moose, elk,
Right.
deer, antelope, mountain goat, mountain sheep. All of these animals we ate
Mm-hmm.
to a varied diet. And then plus what grew around us.
Right.
But what we did not eat is we did not eat things like bears.
Mm-hmm.
Other tribes did. We looked at bears as our older brother. And to eat a bear was like cannibalism.
Wow.
So the Blackfoot would not eat bears.
Okay.
We also would not eat horses. Because horses were a gift
Yeah.
to
Right.
us.
Yeah.
Just as a dog, we never ate dogs. Those are our friends. You don't
Right.
eat your friends.
Right.
Kind of comes down to like cannibalism again.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we did not eat was anything from the water. Anything from the water, including fish.
Right.
The Blackfoot did not eat fish.
No.
We did not eat beaver.
Right.
We did not eat mink. We did not eat otter. We did not eat any of those things.
Okay.
Birds.
Mm-hmm.
Now the Blackfoot did not eat geese,
Mm-hmm.
any of the waterfowl, anything on the land, pheasants,
Right.
geese, prairie chickens,
Mhm.
these things we did not eat. And in fact, the one story we have in our tradition is that there was a man whose family was starving and they went to look for food, but there was no buffalo.
Mm.
So who knows, maybe this happened during the altithermal, as they call it, altithermal period, when they said it was too dry up here or whatever, or something, but there was no buffalo. Well,
Yeah.
in our ancient stories, there was a time when the buffalo disappeared
Mm-hmm.
and our people were starving, looking for food. And so at that time, this man went hunting. And then he took his bow and arrow, and then he saw these birds that were all dancing. They're all gathered up. And then they were having their own sort of a ceremony going on,
Right.
because there was a few of them there. There's quite a few birds. And then, being hungry, he shot one of the birds and he killed it, and so the rest of them all scattered.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took that bird and he brought it home and then prepared it, and then they ate it. And so he was able to feed his family with soup or a broth.
Mm-hmm.
And so they survived. But then the story is that same night, that Gitoki, or that prairie chicken, appeared to him in a dream and told him, "Why did you eat me?" And then the man told him, "Well, I had to feed my family somehow, some way." And then the bird said, "Okay, well, I understand why you had to kill me. You can feed your family.
Mm-hmm.
That's important." He says, "But you killed me during one of our sacred ceremonies, our sacred dances. And that's why I'm here, to ask you why you ate me." And then so the man told him, well, not just like he had to feed himself, but then he says, "Well, like, why are you here to, like, speaking to me?" And he says, "Well, because I can help you if you don't kill any more of my kind," sort of thing.
Right.
And he says, "I'll help you get the buffalo, you and me. I'll bring the buffalo back if you honor basically me and my people.
Right.
And the way you can honor us is by dancing the dance that we were practicing when you killed me."
Yeah.
And then so what that dance today would be the mating dance between in the spring with prairie chickens.
Right.
And they have a particular way they dance
They
that is
do,
totally
yeah.
different than a lot of other birds.
Yeah.
Because the way they dance is there's always a female, and then the female is the one that'll either go up on kind of like a hill or a little knoll, but kind of higher.
Mm-hmm.
And then what she'll do is she'll look in one direction and she'll keep looking in that direction. And then that kind of starts the show. Then one of the young roosters or prairie chickens, what he'll do is he'll dance in front of her.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's dancing in front of her line of sight, he's going to start shuffling his feet. So he's going to start shuffling his feet in front of her until he's in front of her, and then he's going to kind of stop, and then he's going to start preening himself, and he's
Yeah.
going to start showing her his feathers and his colors. And if she's not interested, she simply just turns away and looks another direction. And that gives the opportunity for one of the other prairie chickens to come and do his dance for her. And this will go on and on and on. And there'll literally be a whole bunch of male prairie chickens all around this one hen. And the thing is, when she chooses her mate, she chooses her mate for life.
Wow.
And so they're basically kind of betrothed. So the whole idea of this ceremony was to kind of speak to the sacredness of like marriage, being together, like the wisdom in creation that most birds they mate for life. And then so this was one of the things that came out of this dance, but also that respect for life. Because I want to point out, like even the Blackfoot, when we first met the white men, the traders, Hudson Bay Company traders and the French, the Northwest Company traders, when they first came up, well, those traders managed to convince a lot of tribes east of the Blackfoot, in the Canadian Shield region, east of Manitoba, they convinced these natives to hunt animals like the beaver and water-bearing, fur-bearing mammals to almost extinction, extirpation. They almost disappeared in those parts. When they came up into the Blackfoot territory, 1787 at Manchester House on the North Saskatchewan River, when they met us face to face and we could trade finally with them face to face without the middlemen, the Cree and the Assiniboine, as part of that trade, well then they asked us to do the same thing. Could we hunt these small fur-bearing mammals and these things for them? And the Blackfoot said, no, we're not going to do that. So all the Blackfoot ever traded with the traders was horses, which we had an abundance of, buffalo, which we hunted anyway, meat, we fed the Hudson Bay Company,
Yeah, they fueled
and
them.
hides, buffalo hides, which we hunted anyway. So these are the main three items of trade we ever traded with the fur companies. And that all goes back to this deep respect that Blackfoot have for animals, not just the birds and the fish, but for all animals. And that's kind of why I mentioned the diet. We didn't even eat a lot of these animals. We considered them sacred.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, that being said, even kind of the proof of my words as to how sacred they were to us is, because I know a lot of tribes will say that animals are sacred to us. They're sacred, they're sacred. But to the Blackfoot, they were especially sacred. I'll give you a reason why. Is because after the signing of Treaty Number 7 in 1877, all the Blackfoot tribes basically went south to the Judith Basin in Montana to hunt the last of the herds of buffalo, big herds. And only our elderly and our infirm stayed up at the Blackfoot Crossing, kind of where our museum is located, because the government built a ration house there. And they had beef cattle and they were slaughtering them, and they were feeding the people who stayed handouts of beef and flour, rations. Now the rest of the people, as I mentioned, went all the way to the Judith Basin to hunt the last herds of buffalo. When those buffalo were pretty much hunted to extinction, and there's only a few pockets left in North America, well then our people had to leave that area, and they had to walk all the way back from the Judith Basin in Montana near the Yellowstone, all the way up to the Blackfoot Crossing, where our museum's located, in that area. And along that journey, 1,100 Blackfoot died. Men, women, children, who were all strong at some point. When they got to that ration house, the government officials were amazed that so many Blackfoot died. And when they asked, well, basically, no, they didn't ask. What they found out was that they know that every river between the Judith Basin and the Bow River has fish. Every lake has fish. And in fact, in those days, they probably had more than there are today. Also, the birds, every lowland, like you see outside the city of Calgary here, a lot of these sloughs, they had ducks, they had birds everywhere. From here to the Judith Basin, but because my people don't eat birds, over 1,100 of our people, due to their convictions, starved to death.
Wow.
Because they would not eat these animals. So that's how deeply that reverence went with our grandmothers and grandfathers. And that applied to this bird, to the prairie chicken. its sacredness, because in the dream he came and he gave us a gift. And it wasn't just a gift to learn how to sing and to dance. It was a gift that was going to help us call the buffalo.
Okay.
To bring them to our traps, to our biscuns, to places like Head Smash and Buffalo Jump.
Right.
And even the Blackfoot Crossing, where there's like 30 different buffalo traps, all within a 10-mile radius of that particular area. Drumheller, Dry Island, wherever we would set up camp, we would sing these songs and these dances, because it wasn't just for entertainment purposes sort of thing, it was also to kind of provide with the other power we believed would help ensure the buffalo would always return back to us. Because as I mentioned, the buffalo was our staff of life. It was, we depended on that animal for everything. So long as that animal existed, the Blackfoot people had no want. We didn't need anything. Even the trade goods were more of how would you say, made life easier, but you could live without them, like our people did for literally thousands of years.
Right.
Yeah.
So the dance you were just describing, it's become really popular at powwows. I imagine it's very fancy. So what does it look like, and how does it differ from other dances in the way that makes it kind of popular and attractive to people to see?
Well, there's attractions both in the dancing, like in the outfit.
Yeah.
Let's say, because there is a particular style. The Prairie Chicken dancers almost always have a smaller bustle compared to like the traditional dance or the men's fancy dance. The men's Prairie Chicken, they have like kind of a bustle, and it's not even the pin feathers, like the big feathers. It's kind of, it might be the down, or even just some of the skin with just the feathers on it, and then maybe with a few other feathers kind of sticking up for decoration sort of thing, like for ornamentation or so. But they are smaller bustles. And the dancers, what they would wear is a rich cloth, but along with that they would wear bells, like sleigh bells.
Cool.
Nowadays they wear sleigh bells. In the old days they would have used like dew claws on a deer, because they make that rattling, kind of like a jingle, but it's more like a rattling sound.
Okay.
Well, they would wear that as when they're dancing that particular dance. Nowadays, like I mentioned, it's bells. So a lot of them will wear bells either around their ankles, above their moccasins, or they would wear it along their length of their leg to their waist. Up top, they would usually have a breastplate of some sort they would wear in the front of their outfit. And then they also, their headgear, like the headdress they would wear. They have a roach, which is a porcupine roach. And then they would also have any number of feathers that would be sticking up.
Right.
And so these Prairie Chicken dancers would all kind of dress like that. They don't have too much more to what I just said. And what they would do is, traditionally what our singers would do is they have certain songs that are just for the Prairie Chicken dance. And it's all to do with that Prairie Chicken shuffle.
Right.
And so what they would do in the old days is, unlike powwows today where you have an announcer, an MC who will say, okay, all you Prairie Chicken dancers, get ready, we're gonna have the Prairie Chicken dance off. They wouldn't even say that. In the old days, they did it by the drum. So those people would all gather wherever the dancers, they'd already have their outfits on, waiting for their turn to dance. And then what the drummers would do is they would hit the drum 3 times, just like boom, boom, boom. And that was an announcement to all the chicken dancers in the camp. We're gonna dance. So they would all come out to the center area, and then the chosen drum would start to sing a Prairie Chicken dance song. And I don't know if you need to record this, but I'll kind of show you. They would show, the song would go sort of like, would just kind of start over again.
That's awesome.
And they would sing 4 starts of it, but the drumming would get faster. Because the slower beat was for the dancer to strut, and that's the part where the prairie chicken's strutting for
Okay.
the female. And then they would get to the fast drumming, and that's when the bird would be doing his dance for the actual female.
Right.
And then at a powwow, modern day powwow, I guess people must have liked the way it sounded and the way they looked when they're dancing, because there is a certain step to the prairie chicken. And like I said, the only way you can really understand that if you're not Blackfoot is to maybe watch National Geographic sometime.
Yeah.
Look at the prairie chicken mating dance.
You go outside and look, see if you can find any prairie chickens.
Or even do that in the springtime. Go up on a hillside and take a look and see if you can find some prairie chickens in a group. And then
Yeah.
you'll see that. You'll see the female stand up somewhere to make herself kind of be able to see all around. And then you'll see all the males dancing for
Cool.
her, one at a time. It's not
Yeah.
like they're all dancing. It's like they're all just, the rest of them are just waiting, and only the one will come in and dance.
In the prairie chicken dance that the Blackfoot do, is it all of them dancing at once though?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
well,
so we-
because no, actually, like, you know, for the Prairie Chicken Society, which is a sacred society amongst
Yes.
our people, when they're doing their dance, and most of the people at that time are observers. They're watching these people do their ceremonial dance, kind of, and they have certain rules or taboos that they can and can't do, but they would perform this for the people, especially during our, what we call a circle camp, akukats, our ogan, which is a lot of other tribes mistaken it for Sundance. The Blackfoot, we don't have a Sundance. The Sioux, a lot of these other tribes down east, they have Sundances.
Right.
But even, you know, it's a shame, but even our own kids, they listen to the media, they watch the movies from the United States of America, and they
Yeah.
think, oh, that every time natives get together, it's like a Sundance, or like other tribes. But then we have to teach our kids and say, no, we didn't practice a Sundance.
Right.
We had an Ogan, we had a circle camp, Akugats, and this is when all of our people would get together and share stories over the past year, who lived, who died, what's happened, who attacked who, etc. And also at that same time, that's when our mothers and our grandmothers in the Moto Geek Society would build a special lodge, and they would invite all the other sacred societies to come in to do their dances in
Right.
this lodge. And so the people who are all part of that would be able to observe these sacred dances. And that's where the Prairie Chicken Dance would have been danced back in, before powwows and back then and everything. The people would be able to watch and see how it's danced, and they could choose if they wanted to dance that style themselves, become a Prairie Chicken dancer. I'm proud of the fact that my family, our last name, like I mentioned, was Many Heads.
Yeah.
My late uncle Jasper Many Heads Jr. was the dancer who led, there's a, long story short, there's a big powwow they have every year. And this one used to be in Hartford, Connecticut, at the Foxwoods Casino.
Right.
And that's where they would call this powwow the World Championship, because all the best dancers went there. They had big money, so the thing is the best dancer has the bragging rights. And at that time, the Blackfoot Prairie Chicken Dance wasn't one of the dances at this celebration. And so there's so many dancers that would go there who danced chicken. They wanted the organizers there to have a Prairie Chicken Dance along with the rest of these dances. So anyways, they contacted the Blackfoot people, our tribe in particular, and then when we went out to this particular powwow, my Uncle Jasper got that dance in front of the rest of all the organized tribes throughout North America that were all there, and he led the procession with the other Blackfoot chicken dancers, and then all the other tribes that have chicken dancers who like the style, and they just had this long, big kind of an opening and introduction. And to this day, that celebration has a world champion Well, they tried to go with a world champion chicken dancer,
Yeah.
but here at Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park, we've taken that moniker back.
Uh-huh.
So we sponsored our own powwow celebration, the World Championship Chicken Dance competition.
Cool.
Cool.
And so we have hundreds, like this past year, we had literally over 300 Prairie Chicken dancers come out to all
Wow.
try and grab that title.
That's
That'd be
cool.
amazing.
And so do you go around North America to other, and that dance is danced at just about every powwow now?
Pretty much every powwow, yeah. Since that time when they introduced it to the rest of the powwow world in North America, most powwows have a chicken dance championship. They'll have a competition, just like the jingle dress or
Right.
men's fancy or women's fancy or men's grass. All of these dances, they're all kind of a mainstream part of modern day powwow. Now, the men's chicken dance has become a part. And that's why it's especially important for us as Blackfoot people to let people know where this dance comes from.
Yeah.
Because it's all too easy, because some other tribes, I'm not gonna say who, but have tried to make that claim. But the thing is, unlike the Blackfoot people, we have a story that goes back literally thousands of
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
hand in
Yeah.
hand with this.
Yeah.
And it goes with everything else like I spoke about today, like our respect for animals, our dietary restrictions, all of these things. And that's why it's not too far-fetched to believe that, well, this animal is given reverence by the Blackfoot people because of the wisdom it gave to us, and
Right.
because, like I said, it said it was going to help us with the buffalo to make sure that we don't starve, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, Grant, is there anything else that we didn't ask you about the Prairie Chicken Dance that probably you didn't cover that you think is interesting about it?
Well, anybody listening out there, all I would say is, if you get a chance to and you want to see this type of dance, go to a powwow if you can, anywhere here in Calgary or any of the surrounding tribes.
Yeah.
But if you really want to see the true prairie chickens compete it out like they would have in the old days for the females' attention,
Yeah.
well, then you need to come to the Siksika Nation powwow, which we have in June every year now, at the
Right.
beginning, end of June. And the Blackfoot Crossing Historical Park, we sponsor the world champion Prairie Chicken Dance
It's amazing.
competition. And like I mentioned, that usually kicks off our powwow, our celebration. But like this past year, if it's any indication, this dance is becoming more and more popular because we're getting more and more dancers coming out wanting to dance this style. And this past year, we're also proud of the fact that instead of just one champion, we've had to break into 3 different parts. One for youth,
Oh, wow.
one for adults,
Yeah.
and one for the golden age.
Amazing.
Very nice.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for coming
you.
and telling this story to us today. I think that we got into a couple of things that
Yeah.
we didn't think that we were going to get into, but
Might
we're
be
Maybe-
2 podcasts out of that.
Yeah, future.
Oh yeah,
broadcast, maybe.
absolutely. We'll have
Yeah.
to work together in the future. on
For
something.
sure.
This
Well,
is
thanks for doing it.
fantastic.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you for calling me out. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.